Senator.
Thank you, Minister English, for coming into the House today to take this on behalf of Minister Kelly. I've raised this commencement matter on foot of a very serious and urgent representation that I received over the summer, which I've attempted to resolve both at local level and with the Minister for Environment's department. Prior to this representation, I have repeatedly raised the lack of suitable disability housing for those in need in County Louth. I'm dealing with a few very serious cases, which I will highlight today, and I'm taking these as a representative sample, where the quality of life for these individuals is being impeded due to the lack of suitable housing in the area in which to transfer these individuals. And these families. In some cases, the medical issue or disability has been exacerbated due to the living situation, or accidents have occurred due to stairs. I don't raise these matters lightly and without approaching it from numerous angles with Louth County Council and various members within the Council. Minister, there is simply no suitable housing to be found for those with a disability on the housing list or the transfer list. I've made hundreds of phone calls, attended meetings and written letters and emails in relation to specific cases over the last 2 years. In one case, this person has provided an abundance of medical evidence which proves that the current living situation is unsuitable for her condition, and the person still remains in a 2-storey home. 2 years later, I am continued to be informed that there is no suitable accommodation suitable for this family. The representation that I mentioned earlier, which I received over the summer, is also of extreme urgency. This young family with 4 young children received the devastating news that their 4-year-old son needs to have his leg amputated on the 4th of November due to his diagnosis of bone cancer. This young child's mother also recently delivered a new baby on Friday last. When this little boy comes home from hospital, which is with his family in a wheelchair, he will come to a 2-storey house which doesn't have a toilet downstairs or any facilities for wheelchairs downstairs. From what I understand, this child's condition is very painful, and his parents have to carry him up and down the stairs on various occasions throughout the day for toileting and bedtime. I visited the house myself and would totally agree that the house is not suitable for wheelchair. Now, I raised this in July in the hope that by the time November came, that something would be in place in the House, either that it be adapted or that they be accepted onto the transfer list to move. Unfortunately, since July, nothing. This has not happened. And it is unfortunate that, and I must say I've been very, very disappointed with the response to the case. Once the housing transfer form was submitted, it took a number of weeks for this family and several phone calls for this family to be contacted. And when they were initially contacted, they were told that the matter would be dealt with in due course. That's okay if somebody is looking for it, and I understand that there are priorities, but this is a huge priority. At the very least, I feel an occupational therapist should have attended the home at the earliest opportunity, way back in last July, in order to get the necessary assessment out of the way so that when a house would become available, that these matters would already have been addressed. What this family is going through is life-changing and very, very stressful. This young boy will have to use a wheelchair after his surgery, and he will be coming home and to a situation which is not wheelchair accessible. There aren't enough bedrooms, there isn't enough space in the house. I'm disappointed with the response in each of the cases that I've raised here, and I'm disappointed with the provision of disability medical housing in County Louth. In May of this year, I know that €10 million was allocated in funding for supports for people with disability. Issues like this and cases like this, which are, and I wouldn't raise it if it wasn't so urgent. So I would ask the Minister to look at situations like this to improve the disability housing.
Minister.
Again, thanks Senator Moran for raising this issue, and I'm sorry that our colleagues couldn't be here to take it as well. They wanted to something come up. Social housing is a key priority for me and this government, and for the Minister. Certainly Minister of Environment and Minister Junior Minister Party Coffey as well. Therefore, under the Social Housing Strategy 2020 and the total target provision of over 110,000 social housing units will address the needs of approximately 90,000 households on the housing waiting list, while also providing scope to address further emerging needs, as example you've raised today as well. Social housing targets have been set for each local authority, including Louth County Council, out to 2017. The target set and the funding allocated have been invested by local authorities in a combination of building, buying and leasing schemes designed to accommodate 25% of those currently on the housing waiting lists. The target for Louth is 778 units, the delivery of which is supported by an allocation of 57 million. In line with the target set for social housing delivery, Minister Kelly and Minister of State Coffey announced a major social housing construction programme in May and July this year, with 492 million of investment covering all 31 local authorities, involving over 2,800 housing units. This included over 150 million in approvals under the Capital Assistance Scheme, which supports approved housing bodies in the provision of housing for homeless persons, for the elderly and for people with disabilities. These announcements included 75 new social housing units for Louth specifically. Further details of targets, allocations and projects are available on the Department's website. In relation to the assessment and allocation process for social housing support, this takes into account situations where a member of a household, as example you have given today with the young man, has a disability and allows local authorities to prioritise the allocation of accommodation in these circumstances. So under Section 63 of the Local Government Act 1991, a local authority is, subject to law, independent in the performance of its functions. Under Section 22 of the Housing Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2009 and associated regulations, elected council members set down council policy in relation to the allocation of local authority housing in its allocation scheme, including determining the order of priority for the allocation of dwellings by the authority. The Chief Executive of the local authority is required to make allocations, including decisions on transfers for existing local authority tenants in accordance with this scheme. I understand that Louth County Council scheme provides that transfer applications will be considered in situations where a transfer would relieve a serious medical condition, including physical or mental disability. Section 22 of the 2009 Act also provides that the Chief Executive may disregard the order of priority given to a household under an allocation scheme where the household is being provided with social housing support arising from specified exceptional circumstances, including exceptional medical or compassionate grounds. Support is also provided to local authorities to meet the needs of tenants with a disability through funding for adaptations and extensions to social housing units. In May, Minister Kelly allocated 10 million for these supports for 2015, which is an increase in recent years, and Louth County Council will be allocated 440,000. In summary, local authorities have a range of options available under which they can address cases of specific need, whether through the use of increased funding for adapting existing houses or by making an alternative social house available where this is more suitable, or acquiring a property if that is considered the most appropriate option in individual circumstances. So I think you will appreciate the Minister can't directly tell the Council what to do, who to give the house to, but there's certainly a range of options there that would be able to solve the situation you've raised here today, and I think one of them should be available, and hopefully that will be resolved shortly.
Very brief,
okay, but I mean, this needs to be addressed.
I know, but this might happen in the future. You already gave you 5, the limit is 8, and we're now on the 10th minute. And
okay.
So.
Minister, I must say I am very disappointed that the Minister for the Environment isn't in the House to take this. I mean, it's one thing saying it and saying this is available, that's available, we put 10 million. I've got a family that went in July. An occupational therapist wouldn't have cost any money for somebody to go out. It's now November, the child's operation is next week, and an occupational therapist has still not even visited the house. So, I mean, you're talking about down the road. The other case that I mentioned is 2.5 years down the road, where they tell me, yes, she's on the list, yes, she's a priority, yes, it's there. It's not happening. So we can have all of this, and we can have all of this in writing. But if things aren't moving, it's just not working. And that's where I think that the Minister, the Department, need to come in then and say, well, look, what have you got? Show me where the success rates, where have the houses been allocated, and to do it. I mean, I can ask the Council all day, every day. I'm on to them, but we need to get movement on it. There's no point in saying, "Oh yes, it will be," but when is what I'm asking. These are people who cannot wait for another year or another 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Minister's sorry he couldn't be here. I mean, he would be here if he could, and he certainly will. I mean, he knows the case. I'll bring it directly to him as well. But you have to appreciate the Minister's job is to set out the policy and set out the funding for that. And in that respect, the funding has been allocated to Louth County Council. The decision-making on a daily basis in relation to who gets houses or what occupation therapist business is a local council decision. Certainly, I'll raise this in your concerns with the department, because they are in constant liaison with the various councils as well. But I can't explain why an occupational therapist has not been out to visit. That's not a decision from Minister Alan Kelly. That is a local authority decision.
No, but if you're not
And
getting
I
an
appreciate
answer
you
from the
looking at it as
council, the next step is that you
We're
have to
not
bring
going
it
to resolve it
to
here.
the Minister.
No, I'm not questioning you raising it here. I'm just saying I can't account for a council's decision not to send an occupational therapist out to visit our house. I don't understand that. But I said I'll raise
Mr. Moran has made her case, and Minister, you've given the response. And I don't think we can do any further here today. You know, it's a very sad case, but I think that maybe you should talk to the county manager in the local counties.
Have done.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Senator Moran.